Welcome to another video, and today this is how you do a big brake upgrade on a Skyline GTR. There's a couple kits out there. You can get them from Brembo. You can do the R35 GTR kit. That's about $5,000. That's just for the, what would that be? Calipers are like $3,500. Adapters are about $1,000 to $1,500, and then not to mention, whenever you buy the calipers, the rotors are included. Anywhere between $5,000 to $7,000. Very expensive. And those use 380 millimeter rotors, which on the 32 is kind of overkill, depending on what you want to do. What I'm doing is overkill too, but if I ever need it, it'll be there. So, with that being said, a very, I'm not going to say unpopular opinion, but I haven't seen it on any other car yet. I do know it's possible from the company. The company's name is ECP. They're on Facebook. They sell adapters for Z32s, S chassis, I think, and Skyline, which is kind of the same as the Z32 for the suspension parts. Obviously, the front knuckles are different than the rears, but anyways, what we are going with are, for the front, are going to be AMG 8-pot aluminum calipers. These are found on, if anyone comments and asks, I can give you a list, because I have a breakdown of it, but pretty much anything from 2003 to 2006, I think, on the SLS AMG line, and I think the 2006 SLK 550S maybe. I'm not very good with Mercedes, but they are Mercedes. There is a stand. Where is it? If you can see right there, there's a Mercedes logo. And they are 8 pots, so 1, 2, 3, 4. They are one piece, kind of, unfortunately. It makes it easier to disassemble if it's 2-piece, but they're still high quality. And these will also utilize the 370Z Akebono brake rotors. So 14-inch brake rotors. I think there's a 340 millimeter. Don't question me on that. But yeah, it's a really cheap and efficient way. And then like Z1, DBA, and I think maybe one more company sells 2-piece rotors for the 370. So you can also lighten up rotational mass that way, which therefore frees up a little bit of, I guess you could say, torque, because it's less momentum or less resistance to have to spin the wheels. Less unsprung weight. Yeah. So, yeah, I think I'd have to, I don't know. For the second part, or for the rears, they also use the 370Z rotors, while retaining, I believe, the stock hub-centric ring where the e-brake goes inside of. But for the rear, we have Chevrolet SS Brembos or CTSV Gen 2s. Yeah, for the rears. And it's also the same situation as the 8 pots, is the company ECP sells bracket to mount them. And the really important thing about these is, I might have this backwards, but these are radial mounted, which means the mounting points go straight down through. So imagine the rotor, the mounting points go straight down through. These are coaxial mounted, which means they go straight into the knuckle. That's important because I wanted to run CTSV front and rears, 6-pot front, 4-pot rears, but you can't because they are coaxial mounted and it hits the knuckle. It'll hit the front ball joint, from my understanding. So they have to be radial mounted, which is also the same as R35 GTR. You can also use R33 GTR Brembos or the R32 N1s, but that only goes from 296 millimeter to, I think, 328 millimeter rotor. So it's still kind of, it'll stop the car. The factory brakes work perfectly fine. I just want the ability that if I need more, it's there. And it's also a lot easier to get 370Z rotors than it is to get R32 GTR rotors. And give it 10 years, who knows the availability of JDM parts, and they're expensive, and I want 2-piece rotors. So that's what we're gonna do. And then now we are going to break these down, get the pistons out, get the seals out, and send them to powder coat. And the color will be revealed when they're done. Although some of you already know what I'm going with. And obviously, I like Nissans, so there's a hint. Yeah. So let's get these broke down. If you're an engineer and you're watching this, much respect to you for being an engineer. But if you decide to use Allen head bolts, they're the worst design on this planet. They always strip, especially if they're below an H5, which these are H3s, and they've been sitting on here for a while. And it's just a terrible design. Use a small hex head. So much better. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. Thanks. Now back to your regularly programmed program. So, again, what's happening is these little side covers, I guess you could say, are held in by 3 Allen head bolts that are about the size of your fingernail. They're tiny. They're very small. And they use an H3 Allen. Oh, yeah. So they use an H3. I don't think you can get that. So, 3mm. It fits in it, blah, blah, blah. But they strip out so easy, especially whenever they're this small. I mean, that's, in comparison to my pinky finger, that's how small those are. And I have small hands. I recommend if you ever do anything and it has Allen head bolts and you can get a hex head, put a hex head on it. It'll save you a headache down the road. So much of a headache. But in this case, if they're stripped out or just old and seized and you can't get them out, what a good technique is that you use a Torx bit. Now you take the Torx bit end, and if you don't know what a Torx bit is, it just has these fittings on the end of it like a star. I can't get the focus. It looks like a star at the end of it. What you do is you take a Torx bit and then you put it inside the hole and then you hammer down on it, which is what you're seeing me do. And the tines on the sides of it will actually bite into it and bite and pull them out. It works 10 times better than an extractor set. And these are Blue Point. I'm using good quality tools, just Allen heads are terrible. And also I do have a Mac extractor, but these tend to work better. I don't know why, they just do. And yeah, that's a little tech tip. I do this for a living, so it is what it is. But if you can avoid using Allen bolts on anything, do it. Now we have to get the pistons out. Pistons and seals. It's also very hot in here, so I'm dripping. Anyways, and to get these pistons out, a good technique is you take the bleeder valves out and then you put compressed air to it, and in turns that'll push the pistons out. And then you just grab them. In the case of the CTSV or the SS Brembos, if you will, you can also use SRT8 rear Brembos too. In the case of that, if they're two-piece, you just separate them, and then you can do the same technique, but you can grab channel locks and just pull them straight out. These we're going to be a little experimental with because they're not two-piece, so I'm assuming we're just going to have to get like a kind of like a crowbar maybe, and just pry and pop them out. But you're coming along with me, so let's get to it. What we should be able to do is take like a pry bar, so now all the pistons are out. You can be very careful. I'm replacing all the seals, so I didn't really worry if those got damaged, but you want to make sure not to scar up the pistons. And then really just pop them out with the pry bar. It's kind of difficult. It's easy, but if you don't have nothing to pry against, it kind of slips off a lot. But there's all the pistons. And I should have one more seal in there, which I'll get out. But now, these are ready for powder coat. Now, this one's ready for powder coat. I have to do the same to this one, and there's two. Alright, so it's always something, right? It's always something. The issue we ran into whenever we were breaking down the brake calipers is we got the CTSV calipers into two pieces, no problem whatsoever. Kind of brand new, expected. Although the guy said they came off of 2010, but they look brand new. Whatever. The issue, whenever we were doing the AMG brake calipers, one of the crossover tubes is, I guess what they're called, the thread pulled the thread on the actual screw, I believe, thankfully. I kind of threw it away. Let's see if I can find it. Yeah, so I threw it away. Whatever. But the problem with that is that it stripped. I don't know if it's this one. I'm just going to go ahead and touch all of them up. But it stripped the threads because it pulled the threads on the fitting, and the brake caliper is cast aluminum. It didn't pull it on the caliper, I believe. So now, how we're going to repair that is, if I can find it, I ordered it off Amazon. It is a M10, so AMG 8-pot 2005 SLK 55 AMG SLK 550. They're so confusing. The thread pitch, I found this on Rock Auto, is M10 by 1. So let's see if I can get you to show that. And I also ordered new bleeder valves. I'm having trouble finding the crossover tubes, but I'll do my best. And if we find some, I'm going to replace those. I'm not really worried about those getting powder coated. I just want fresh fittings so that this doesn't happen again. But a lot of brake calipers, come to find out, are M10 by 1. So if you need new fittings, they come in a pack of 6. I got 2 packs, and it was about $7 per pack. Real expensive. So we are going to tap the, well, kind of clean up the threads or tap it. So let's get to doing that. So we got all the threads cleaned up, but the bleeder screw won't tighten. It just keeps spinning, so the threads are still stripped, just barely. So now we have to get a Healy coil, and that will be here. Today is Tuesday. That'll be here Thursday. Then we'll try and install that. Cross our fingers, because if that doesn't work, I have no idea what to do. So, other than replace the caliper, and I don't feel like spending that money right now because these were expensive as is. Gotta love things when they go wrong. But other than that, I'm gonna see if Chris can still powder coat them or not. With that, it shouldn't make a difference. I'll just have to drill it and then tap it and then put the Healy coil in and then put the brake bleeder screw in, and then it'll be done. So I don't think it'll be an issue, but we'll go from there.